Hello and welcome back to the C9 Podcast Show. It's great to have all our loyal C9 followers with us. And look, if you're a business owner or an executive in Australia tuning in for the first time, you have absolutely come to the right place. I'm Lex, and I'm here to sort of guide you through the weeds of running a modern business.
And I'm Vera. My job is to connect the dots, look at the data, and hopefully stop you from stepping on some very, very expensive landmines.
Expensive is definitely the word for today. We're going deep on something that I think keeps a lot of people up at night, even if they can't, put a name to it. Let me just start with a question for you, listening right now.
Oh.
When was the last time you made a six-figure strategic decision, an acquisition, a product launch, a hiring spree, based on data that you completely 100% trusted?
That is a very uncomfortable question, and if you hesitated just for a second there, you are not alone. We're looking at a major report from 2026 that highlights what it calls a data confidence crisis.
It's huge. I was reading the summary this morning, and one number just leaps off the page. It just screams emergency.
You're talking about the bleed rate?
Exactly. The report suggests Australian businesses are, right now, hemorrhaging an average of $500,000 a year. Not from theft, not a market downturn, just from dirty data.
$500,000.
Yeah.
Just gone.
Mm.
And the scary part is, it's usually invisible until it's far too late. So today, our mission is to unpack how that happens. We're not just talking about cleaning a spreadsheet.
No.
We're going deep into the cost of this dirty data, the rise of a pretty terrifying trend called AI Cowboys, and ultimately, how you can turn this mess into a weapon using professional methods, specifically looking at how the team at C9 tackles this.
So let's get into it. $500,000. That's a lot of money to lose without an alarm bell ringing. If it went missing from a safe, you'd call the police. How does a business lose that much from data friction and not even notice?
Well, it's death by 1,000 cuts. It's what we call technical debt with compounded interest. It hides in the gaps between your departments. Let's break down where that money actually goes, starting with the most obvious one, marketing.
Right. Everybody knows spam is bad, but what are the actual financial mechanics of it?
Okay, so say you're a mid-sized Aussie business. You put 50 grand into a new campaign. You're targeting, say, 10,000 leads. But because your CRM hasn't been properly cleaned in 2 years, 30% of those are duplicates.
Right.
Another 20% have bad email addresses, and maybe 15% have unsubscribed, but your suppression list just didn't sync with the main database.
So you're literally paying to market to ghosts, or worse, to people who've legally told you to stop.
Precisely. You've just evaporated nearly $33,000 of that $50,000 budget before a single email is properly delivered. That's immediate cash burn. But the technical cost is higher. When you bounce that many emails, your domain reputation just tanks. Google and Microsoft start flagging your legitimate emails as spam. So now your sales team can't even get invoices to actual paying clients because your whole domain is radioactive.
That's the hidden cost. It's not the ad spend, it's the operational paralysis that comes after.
Okay, but marketing is just one silo. What happens when this hits finance?
Yeah, that's where it becomes a C-suite nightmare. We're talking about reconciliation. Imagine your sales director presents a report, growth is up 15%, everyone's high-fiving.
Yep.
But your CFO looks at the invoicing system, the ERP, and says, hang on, revenue is flat.
Because the CRM and the accounting software are telling completely different stories.
Exactly. The CRM counts a win at the handshake. The ERP only counts it when the cash is in the bank. If those systems aren't integrated with clean data, you get strategic paralysis. You literally can't make a decision because you don't know which version of reality is actually true.
And in Australia, if your financial data is off, you have a very large and very scary organization to answer to.
Yeah.
The ATO. And this is serious. With single-touch payroll, the ATO has near real-time visibility into your business. If your payroll data has discrepancies, even small accidental ones from bad data entry, it triggers audits.
And nobody wants an audit.
It's not just the fear, it's the cost. You're suddenly looking at 80 grand in accounting fees, penalties, and just hundreds of hours of your executive team's time wasted dealing with compliance instead of strategy. It just kills your focus.
Okay, I have to assume this has a massive impact on the shiny new toy everyone's obsessed with, AI.
That is the tragedy of 2026. Companies are throwing, $250,000 at AI initiatives. They want predictive analytics, chatbots, the works. But AI is just a math engine. It learns from data.
Garbage in, garbage out.
It's worse than that. It's garbage in, confident error out. The AI will confidently tell you to invest in a market that doesn't exist because your dirty data told it so. The project fails, that investment is gone, and you are now 12 months behind your competitor who cleaned their data first.
So the problem is crystal clear. The house is on fire. The obvious reaction from a manager is, right, get a data analyst, give them Excel and a lot of coffee, and tell them to fix it. Why doesn't that work?
It seems logical, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But that's the manual cleaning trap. The problem is velocity.
The speed.
The rate data is generated. Think about it. You hire someone to manually deduplicate your records. It takes them 6 months. But in those 6 months, your sales team, your website, your support desk, they've generated thousands of new records.
So by the time they finish, the list is already 6 months out of date.
Exactly. It's like bailing out a sinking ship with a teaspoon while water is pouring through a massive hole in the hull. Manual effort it cannot keep up with the velocity of modern data. You will never, ever catch up.
Which brings us to the alternative a lot of businesses are turning to. And this is the second part of our deep dive. The AI cowboy. I keep hearing this phrase. It sounds almost romantic, but in tech, cowboy is usually not a compliment.
It is very much a warning. In 2026, we're seeing an epidemic of what the industry is calling AI cowboys and vibes coding.
Vibes coding. That has to be the most Gen Z term I've ever heard in a business meeting. What on earth does that mean?
It's as terrifying as it sounds.
Yeah.
Essentially, you have people calling themselves developers, using AI tools like ChatGPT or Cursor to generate entire applications. But here's the kicker. They don't actually understand the code that's being written.
So they're just prompting an AI. They're building enterprise apps based on a feeling?
They focus on the user interface. Look, I clicked the button and the thing happened. The vibe is good. They completely ignore engineering principles. There's no architecture, no security, no planning for scale.
It's like a Hollywood movie set. It looks like a real house from the front, but you open the door and you're just standing in a paddock.
That is the perfect analogy. And the biggest danger is the black box. Because the cowboy didn't write the code, the AI did. They don't document it. It's just a tangled mess of logic, what we call spaghetti code. If that cowboy leaves, your business is left with an unmaintainable disaster.
Can you give us a real-world example of this? Because I feel like some people listening might be thinking, well, if it works, who cares how messy the code is?
There's a horror story from a Melbourne e-commerce business I looked at. They hired an AI cowboy to build a quote-unquote custom inventory system. The quote was $8,000.
Which sounds like an absolute bargain compared to a professional quote.
It felt like a steal. And look, it worked great for 2 months. Then Black Friday hit. Transaction volume spiked 400%. The system wasn't built for concurrency. Multiple people trying to buy the same thing at once. The database locked up.
The whole system crashed.
On Black Friday. They lost $400,000 in revenue in one weekend. Orders vanished. Customer credit card tokens got desynced. It was a complete catastrophe. And then they had to spend another $80,000 to get a professional team to come in, scrape the wreckage, and rebuild it properly.
So the $8,000 bargain actually cost them almost $500,000.
And that's before we even touch on compliance. We're in Australia. We have the Privacy Act. We have the Notifiable Data Breaches Scheme.
Yeah.
AUSTRAC requirements. AI cowboys have, well, zero understanding of these. They're just pasting code. They aren't thinking about audit trails or data encryption.
Which puts the company directors personally at risk.
Correct. Fines can go up to $2.5 million or more for serious breaches. It's a liability that no board should ever accept.
Okay, that is sufficiently terrifying. Let's pivot. If manual cleaning is too slow and AI cowboys are too dangerous, what does the professional solution look like? We're looking at the methodologies used by C9 Australia's leading custom software, apps, integration, and database developer. How do they do it differently?
The professional approach, the C9 way, is about automated intelligence, but with really strict guardrails. They use machine learning models that are trained on your specific business rules, not just some generic script.
So it's not just doing a search for duplicate names?
No, it's much more sophisticated. For example, a simple script won't know that John Smith at Smith Enterprises is the same person as J. Smith at Smith Ent Beide Ltd. A human knows that. C9's AI is trained to recognize those fuzzy patterns. It's called schema matching, just like a human, but at a scale of millions of records per hour.
But wait, a lot of American software says they can do this. Why does C9 make such a big deal about being Australian? Does geography really matter for data?
Oh, it matters immensely. American tools break on Australian nuance.
Right.
C9 has built their systems specifically for our context. Take ABNs.
The Australian business number.
Right. A U.S. tool just sees an 11-digit number. C9's system actually validates it using the correct weighted algorithm that checks them to make sure it's a real ADN. They understand our address structures, Unit 4, 55 Smith Street, which just confuses American systems looking for zip codes. They handle the O4 mobile format properly.
That's a huge one. I've seen so many databases where a U.S. system tries to format an Aussie mobile number and just chops off the leading zero.
Exactly. And C9 handles industry-specific IDs like AHPRA numbers for health, legal practice IDs. The generic international tools just fall over.
Now, I want to push back a bit. C9 talks about a hybrid model for their teams. Usually when I hear hybrid, I think compromise. Why not just go fully local for quality or fully offshore for cost? Why mix them?
Well, it's about solving the two biggest problems in development, cost and context. If you hire a fully local Australian firm, the quality is fantastic, but the cost, the burn rate, is astronomical. If you go fully offshore, you save money, but you lose the context, the cultural nuance, the time zone, the understanding of the ATO.
The communication just breaks down.
C9 bridges that gap. They have an onshore team, and Australia solution architects, project managers. These are the people you talk to who sit in your meetings. But the heavy lifting, the coding, and the QA is done by their own senior staff offshore.
And when you say their own staff, that's key, right? These aren't just freelancers they found somewhere.
No, they're full-time C9 employees. This model gives you a 40 to 60% cost saving compared to a fully local team, but you keep the safety and the legal protection of an Australian partner.
So you get the Australian legal throat to choke if things go wrong, but with the pricing efficiency of a global team.
That's a crude way to put it, but yeah, it's accurate. And crucially, unlike the Cowboys, C9 insists on knowledge transfer. They make sure you own the solution. You get the documentation, the code walkthroughs, everything. There's no vendor lock-in.
That is so rare. Usually developers want to build a moat around you so you can never leave them.
It is rare, but it's the professional way to do business.
Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room, price. Everyone's wondering, what does this cost? And this brings us to that big friction point you mentioned in the notes, the discovery phase.
This is where so many projects fail before they even start.
But play devil's advocate with me. If I call a plumber, I expect a quote. If I call C9, they say I have to pay for a discovery phase before they give me a price. A CFO hears that and thinks, I'm paying for the privilege of being sold to. How do you justify that?
I get that pushback all the time. But software isn't plumbing. It's more like building a skyscraper on land you've never surveyed. If a competitor gives you a quote of, say, $40,000 to $60,000 after a one-hour call, they are just guessing.
And we know what happens when you guess.
That indicative pricing just destroys value. Halfway through, they open your database and, surprise, you don't have 50,000 records, you have 150,000. Or your API has no documentation. Suddenly, that $40,000 project is now $127,000.
And it's 3 months late.
Always. C9 argues that the paid discovery phase is your insurance. It's the blueprint. They look under the hood, analyze the schema, they find all the unknowns. It means when they give you a price, it's the real price.
So you're paying to eliminate the risk?
Exactly. And they have a model that makes this much easier for executives to approve, the self-funding model.
I love the sound of that. Tell me more.
Instead of a massive upfront budget, C9 breaks the project into stages. Phase 1 is all about quick wins. They find the highest ROI problems, like that marketing waste we talked about.
So you can stop the bleeding first.
Yes. And often, the savings from Phase 1 are enough to pay for Phase 2. There's a great example of a retail chain with 12 locations. Their inventory data was a mess. C9 didn't try to fix the whole company at once. They did Phase 1 at just one location.
A pilot program.
A pilot. They fixed the inventory and POS data for that one store. That single location saved $52,000 in the first year alone, just from efficiency gains.
So that one store basically paid for the development.
It did. Then they took those savings and used them to fund the rollout to the other 11 locations. Eventually, the company was saving over $1 million a year. The initial risk was tiny.
That is just smart business.
Yeah.
You're using the project's own success to fund its expansion. It changes the conversation from this is a cost center to this is a revenue recovery engine.
Yes.
Now, quickly before we wrap up, I want to touch on staffing. C9 doesn't just fix data, they also provide the people. But I noticed they have a specific contract structure, 3 to 6 months. Why not month to month? Isn't flexibility king?
It sounds counterintuitive, but month-to-month contracts are actually inefficient for software. It comes down to ramp-up time. It takes any developer 2 to 3 weeks to really understand your business, your code, your acronyms.
So if I hire them for a month, I'm paying for 3 weeks of learning and only get 1 week of actual productive work.
Exactly. And then they leave, and all that knowledge walks out the door. On a longer contract, you get a dedicated resource who becomes part of your team. They care about the code quality because they know they're the ones who will have to work with it next month.
And there's this perk C9 offers called rollover hours. I haven't seen that since the old mobile phone plan days.
It's pretty unique in the dev world. Usually, if you buy a block of, say, 100 developer hours and only use 80, you just lose the other 20. The agency pockets the money.
Which always feels like theft.
C9 lets you bank them. So if you have a quiet month, you save those hours. Then, when you have a big feature launch or a crisis in March, you have a stockpile of hours ready to go without having to run back to the CFO for more budget.
That's incredibly practical. It actually reflects the reality of how software gets built in spikes and valleys.
It aligns the contract with the actual outcome.
So we've covered a lot of ground. The $500,000 silent killer, the trap of the AI cowboys, and the professional C9 solution. For the business owner or the CIO listening right now, how do you boil this all down?
Look, it really comes down to 3 paths. You are standing at a crossroads today.
What's path 1?
Do nothing. You accept the status quo. You keep losing that $500,000 a year. You let the reconciliation nightmares continue, and you just cross your fingers that the ATO doesn't come knocking.
Not a great strategy. What's path 2?
Go cheap. You hire the AI cowboy. You spend $15,000 now because it looks good on the P&L. But you have to be prepared to spend $150,000 later fixing the disaster, recovering your data, and fighting potential legal fines.
The expensive way to be cheap.
Correct. Or path 3. Do it right. You partner with C9, you invest in that discovery call, you get a professional Australian compliance solution, and crucially, you own it. It's sustainable, and with the self-funding model, it pays for itself.
When you lay it out like that, it's not really a choice. It's more of an IQ test.
It really is.
Okay, here's the action plan for everyone listening. If you are tired of second-guessing your own dashboards, if you're scared about what's lurking in your systems, you need to reach out to the team at C9.
They are Australia's leading custom software, apps, integration, and database developer. They live and breathe this stuff.
You can find them at www.c9.com.au. That's c9.com/.ou. And while you're listening, just look at your podcast app, hit that follow button. We're going to bring you more of these deep dives and share this with your CTO or CFO. This is the ammunition they need.
And book that free initial discovery call. Stop the bleeding. It costs nothing to have the conversation, but it costs $500,000 a year to ignore it.
Any final thought to leave our listeners with?
I'll leave you with this. The question isn't whether you need professional database cleaning. The question is, how much longer can you afford to wait while your competitors are using clean data to make real-time AI decisions? That window of opportunity is closing fast.
Powerful stuff. Don't wait for the crash to fix the foundation. Thanks for listening to this deep dive on the C9 Podcast Show. We'll see you next time.